Hello everyone, it's me, Aaron, Professor ThorgE3, your guide to all things geeky, and welcome back to our continuous coverage of E3. We've already talked about Xbox, we've talked about PlayStation, and now time to talk about the company that is near and dear to all of our hearts, but only a couple of us actually give money to. Yes, that's right, Nintendo. Let's go ahead and address the big elephant in the room, which is that Nintendo didn't really have anything this year because they don't really have anything coming up. They're focusing mostly on their NX, but the NX isn't ready to be shown off just yet. And most of the games that they have coming up are going to be for the NX, so they're keeping them completely secret, so we haven't even seen anything for them. So this year, they really only had two things to show off. Pokemon Sun and Moon, and Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Sure, they showed off some minor indie stuff, and they also showed off some smaller titles for their DS, but that was it. And that's kind of sad because we all want to see Nintendo succeed. We all want to see them come back and knock it out of the park. And don't get me wrong, they still put out a ton of great games, and they've still got so much money in reserves that it's not like they're in trouble. It's not like they're losing money at the moment. They're still churning out a profit, but we want to see them come in with a ton of games, and we didn't really get that this year. In fact, we didn't even really get any show from them this year. In the previous years, they might not have had a lot of big games that really impressed us, but at least their conference was fun. You know, they had Robot Chicken 2 years ago, they had the Puppets last year, and then this year, it was nothing. It was like they were just like, yeah man, we know that we don't really have anything. However, because they only really showed off two things, we got to see a lot of those two things. So let's go ahead and talk about Pokemon Sun and Moon. Now we got to see a live gameplay demo of this, and yes, it still looks like Pokemon, but it looks a little bit crisper. I do think that the animation looked a little bit better, and I really do like that you're going to actually get to see your trainer standing right next to their Pokemon. They pointed out something in this demo that because of this, you'll actually get to see the size difference between you and your Pokemon, and I think it's going to be kind of fun. Like, we all know that some of these guys are really, really tiny, but they look big on screen because you have to have them look big compared to the other ones. So I'm wondering if when you throw out one of the really tiny guys, are they going to actually be that size out there? Or like when you throw out like a Wailord, like one of those guys that you are microscopic compared to, are they going to actually take up that much size? So that'll be a fun thing to add to this game. And also we got to see a couple of new Pokemon, and I will admit to you guys, I made a promise I was going to ignore all future Pokemon trailers because I wanted to be totally surprised when this game came out. When this game came out, I wanted to go into it and just be like, completely surprised by every single thing that came at me. However, considering that I work on the internet and try to make a living on the internet, that's impossible. It cannot be done. I'm still going to try and avoid it as much as I possibly can. However, yeah, considering that I'm covering all of E3 and Nintendo only had two things to show off at E3, I kind of had to watch this trailer. The first one is Pikipek. Now this is the common bird that you're going to find. Every single game has a common bird that you find as soon as you go out there into the wild, and this one is based on a woodpecker. And I love that it really moves like a woodpecker. Like, its idle animation while it's just standing there is its head just goes like it does that quick drilling thing that woodpeckers do. And I'm kind of hoping that ends up evolving into some kind of like a stork or a heron, because that's the only other kind of bird that I can think of that has that really long beak. So that seems like the natural next stage of evolution for it. And it's also worth noting that this was the bird that we got very briefly teased in that very first Pokemon Sun and Moon trailer, where you just saw an outline as someone was working on their computer, and everybody instantly started making fan art just based on that outline. And what really surprises me is how many people kind of got it right. Like, a lot of fan art that I saw just based on that outline did end up looking like Pikipek. So I was like, alright, you guys did it! Way to go! Next one is hands down my favorite one that got announced. Yungoos. This one is based on a mongoose and based on a weasel, and it's going to be the common rat that you find. You know, we all have Raticate, and there have been some other ones that, you know, you just find as soon as you go out there. It's the common normal type that you find as soon as you go out into the wild. And out of all the ones that meet that description from the previous games, this one is already hands down my favorite, because normally when you run into those ones, it's like, oh god, another one of these things. This guy is adorable to me. Just look at his little grumpy face. He's so mad. Oh my god, he's adorable. I cannot wait to get a plush of that guy. And also, I really want to know what he's going to evolve into. Like, I think just based on what we see, he's going to turn into some kind of like a badger or Wolverine with a giant like bear trap sized jaw. I think that'd be a really cool design for it. Also, I really love that we got its type. Every single Pokemon is based on either some kind of an animal or some kind of an activity or some kind of an emotion. This one is called the Loitering Pokemon. This Pokemon is the embodiment of just, hey. Like, that's it. That's its entire being. And they were talking about him as they were playing through the game, and they said that it's always hungry, so it's always mad. So it's basically the hangry Pokemon. Oh my god, he looks so cute. I want him right now. Also, just looking at that jaw, am I the only person who really wants to know what he's going to be like when you feed him in Pokemonomy? Just seeing that giant jaw coming up and down. Oh god, it's gonna be so cute. But the final one that we saw is the common bug type. Yes, in every single Pokemon, there's also a common bug type that you run into that eventually evolves into a cocoon of some type and then evolves into its big winged bug form. The one that we got was Grubbin. Now, there's not a lot to talk about with this one because there really isn't a lot to talk about with any of the first forms of any of these small bug ones. However, this one's got 2 giant pinchers coming out, so it really makes me want to know what's its final evolution going to look like. I don't even know if it's going to be a winged one. Typically it does evolve into some kind of a flying type bug, but with those giant pinchers, I can see it being like a giant beetle or a giant crab-like bug. I could really find some interesting stuff to do with this guy when he eventually evolves. But that was not the biggest new announcement from this new Pokemon game. They announced a new battle format. There's now going to be a 4-person battle royale style where you just go in and it's you versus 3 other people, but each of them are versus 3 other people as well. Basically, you're going to go in there and you're going to get to pick and choose from these 3 people who you end up fighting, and whoever loses all their Pokemon first, they're the loser. But then they decide who the winner is based on how many of your Pokemon you have left, but then also based upon how many Pokemon you defeated. So I think this is cool. They keep trying to add new battle formats to these games, and I'll be honest with you, not a lot of them really get me excited. I mean, the 2-on-2 battle was the first one that they tried. I was like, okay, this is a new thing, but then they never really did anything with it. And then there was the rotating battle, which I thought was interesting. There was the 3-on-3 battle, but again, they don't really do anything with it, and it seems that it's always just, okay, just add another Pokemon in there. This is the first one that was like, that's actually a unique thing, and I could see that being really fun to play with a group of friends. But let's get into Nintendo's biggest piece of news, is that we finally got to see gameplay footage for Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And as soon as the trailer started, we could tell something was different.
Wake up, Link.
I'm sorry, that's not the line. The line is... Oh my god, are we finally going to get a Legend of Zelda game with voiceover acting? It's not just that thing that we got in all the previous games. This is huge. I know that some people out there are like, oh, but I like that. To me, it was like, yes, that was nice, but I'm ready to go on to something else. And this is instantly showing me that it's going to be different. But that's not the only thing. Literally everything in this gameplay was completely different, but at the same time, kind of still captured the feeling of the Legend of Zelda games. I mean, the opening to the gameplay is one of the most ominous and mysterious things I've seen in any of these games. And the fact that it's Legend of Zelda and it's so different from any of the previous Legend of Zelda games makes it so eerie. And I don't really want to say creepy, but haunting in a way. You wake up and you're in this resurrection chamber and they're saying, wake up, wake up. And instantly my weird conspiracy theory brain just jumped into action and started going, oh god, hold on, so what's going on here? So it's saying wake up, this is a resurrection chamber. Are you a previous Link from a previous game? You died and now you're being brought back to life. Which one are you? There have been like 12 different Links, so which one are you? And what happened to Hyrule? That's the big question, because you start going around, walking around Hyrule, and you don't see anybody. You see no humans anywhere, but you do see temples and churches and giant buildings just crumbling to the ground. This is definitely a, I don't want to say post-apocalyptic Hyrule, because there are no zombies, and as E3 teaches us, it's only the post-apocalypse if there are zombies. But there are moblins here, so they're not zombies. But something definitely happened. Something definitely happened to basically destroy Hyrule, and this is way in the future. We all are familiar with that Legend of Zelda timeline. This one is definitely going to be set way further than any of the other games. But yeah, as I said, there is just something so haunting about this game, is the fact that you wake up with no instructions, you have no idea where you are, nothing around you matches the style of any of the previous Legend of Zelda games, and then you go out there into this world that does match the style, but everything is destroyed, and there is nobody there to give you any information. You're just going around, and all you can do is just walk around in this quiet area and wonder what the heck has happened. And the gameplay is totally different. The fact that your weapons actually will get weaker as you use them, and they will eventually break, but you can take weapons from any of your opponents and actually steal from them. This is totally different for a Legend of Zelda game. And also the fact that you don't need to just get hearts to replenish your hearts. You can actually just eat fruit that you find on a tree, and you can actually collect pretty much anything that you find out there in the world. And of course you're going to be able to use that to build things, you're going to be able to use it to make food. There's a ton of stuff that you could do with any of the things that you can pick up throughout this world. It's almost like the people at Nintendo said, we're supposed to be the kings of the RPG world. We have Legend of Zelda, it's one of the most recognized RPGs out there, but then we're getting our butts kicked by things like Dark Souls and Skyrim. What are we to do? Oh, I know. Take the best stuff from those games and combine them with Legend of Zelda. I'm not coming in here and saying, oh, it looks like they just ripped off Skyrim and Dark Souls. No, not at all. It looks like they learned from Skyrim and Dark Souls and went, oh, time to step it up. Time to take our fantasy world to the next level. Because this world looks massive. And the fact that I didn't see any slowdown as you were walking around. There's a moment in which he just pushes a rock down a hill, and you see it just rolling and rolling and rolling. God, that song's gonna be stuck in my head now. God. Alright, but you just see it rolling, and I was like, okay, any minute now it's going to like just break, or it's going to just vanish off into the distance. No, it kept going. It really felt like this was a huge giant world and you were actually just walking around in it. And I personally love the art style of this. I know a lot of people out there were saying, oh, it looks too much like Wind Waker. I'll admit it shares some tones with Wind Waker, but Wind Waker was far more cel shaded, whereas this one almost has a painted look to it. In fact, in the demo, they even compare it to gouache paints. And I love that because I feel like most fantasy worlds that we get in video games these days tend to be kind of dark and dreary. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but when they're all kind of going in that direction, there is kind of something wrong with that. I mean, earlier I mentioned Skyrim, that's a little bit dark and dreary, and then I mentioned Dark Souls, which is a lot dark and dreary. So I think it's great that Nintendo is going completely in their own direction. They're going, no, fantasy can be many different things. It can be really dark and dreary, but it can also be really bright and beautifully painted, and that's what they're going with this new Legend of Zelda game. But yeah, I know that Nintendo only showed off two things, but Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, in all honesty, might have impressed me more than anything else I saw at this year's E3. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that made me go, what? Even more than that, a lot of it from the Sony press conference, but a lot of that stuff was stuff that we just got a teaser trailer for. As far as the stuff that we actually saw gameplay footage of, this one definitely impressed me the most, because it got me thinking the most. This one, as I said, my mind started racing as I watched this gameplay. I just wanted to know what the heck happened to this world. What is up with all these machines? What is up with this Link? Is he a Link that we have known from a previous game? Who is this person talking to you? In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Zelda turned out to be just some AI system. It's like her mind put into this computer and she brought you back to life. That would be, oh my god, I need to do a ThorgE3 theory now. Okay, never mind that. That I might end up doing in a later episode, but thank you guys very much for watching this episode. If you want to see even more E3 stuff from me, then you can click on the videos at the end of this or hit that subscribe button because I've got even more stuff coming throughout this week. So thank you guys very much for tuning in. Come back next time.